Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me, and I am warning you right now, I'm a little rushed for time today, and I came across an error in my sheet, and I had to almost revamp the whole thing, which threw off a lot of the timing. So I am just warning you, this video is maybe not to the level you're used to. The issue that I had is right up here. I did not account for the fact that some teams would have bye weeks, which seems like such an obvious thing that I definitely should have accounted for. So this sheet is all full of totals, but the totals get messed up when teams like, oh, I don't know, the Chargers have a bye week. So now the Chargers number is lower than it should be compared to every other team because they've played 5 games, whereas the Chargers have only played 4. So I had to redo it, and I had to adjust it by per game because of the bye week. Now, the bad news is I was only able to do so much, and when I look at the head-to-head, there's still some errors. So obviously this will correct itself once every team has had their bye week. It will go back to normal, and you can still use this sheet if you want to have the bye weeks accounted for. It's not going to make the most massive difference, but I do want to tell you this, this right here is not perfectly flawless because of the bye weeks, but in like 4 weeks it will be, okay, once every team's had their bye week. All right, so last week was good. If we want to talk positives, we hit Swift, we hit Higgins finally, we hit Johnson, we hit Jackson Smith and Jigba, and we hit Tucker Kraft for a 2.3 positive unit week 5. So far we're up. Just picking touchdown picks, just handicapping NFL touchdowns, we are positive on the year on official plays. People said it couldn't be done. People said, you don't play the EV, you're going to lose. And we might. By golly, we might lose. But right now, through 5 weeks, we are up almost 2 units. Our Tier 2 picks are the best, up almost 8 units. We're losing a lot on Tier 1, okay on Tier 3, and we are positive barely on our first TD plays, although these are only 0.1 unit wagers anyway. So we're technically, up 7 bets if you want to look at it like that. So what you can expect on this channel is Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 plays, all of which have various units, 1 unit, half unit, and quarter unit. First TD picks are about 0.1 unit, but that will all be accounted for in a little bit here. Now let's talk about Thursday. We're going to go through each game, and I did not get through all of these, again, because I have someone coming in, a friend from out of town, in a few short hours. My wife and daughter went to the zoo, but they weren't leaving yet. So I've had a scrambled morning, all right, but we're going to get into it here. Okay. Here's what catches my eye. Seattle's defense is still banged up, and I expect San Francisco to take advantage of that in a big way. Deebo Samuel is a guy that has versatility, and I think Seattle will struggle to stop his versatility. What do I mean by that? He can run, he can catch. So I know this right here isn't super overwhelming in terms of green versus red, like I try to look for, but I do think there is an opportunity here for Deebo. I like him at plus money. I also don't hate Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings, if you would rather go that route. For Jacksonville and Chicago, this game is being played in London, and my eye is caught on to the fact that Chicago's only allowed 8 8 touchdowns, which is some of the league's best, but 6 have been on the ground. I like Tank Bigsby at that number, plus 250 for a guy that's been very involved in the offense, and you're getting him at plus money, very plus money. I like it a lot. So Tank Bigsby plus 250. Here's the deal, guys. Many of you know I started drinking the soda again after not having it for 16 years. I poured up myself a glass of the Diet Pepsi, and let me tell you, I'm bubbling down beneath. So if I'm belching, I'll try to turn away from the microphone. I'm a lightweight. I'm a lightweight in the soda category. So bear with me, forgive me. Arizona and Green Bay should be a good game. I am actually interested in watching this one unfold, and I think the biggest weakness for Arizona is their rushing defense, allowing 8 rushing touchdowns. Now, Green Bay, funny enough, is not scoring a ton of rushing touchdowns. It's actually their weakest category, right, by running back, only 2 on the year. I think Josh Jacobs gets it going, and I think this is a perfect matchup for him to get it going, so I don't mind the minus 125 price. Indy and Tennessee is hopefully a game that Mason Rudolph starts, although Will Levis practiced in full, so I'm a little nervous, which, it might not be a bad thing, but I prefer Mason Rudolph. Bottom line is Hopkins and Ridley are both about plus 250, and if we look That's the Colts' weakness. Although it's not the Titans' strength on offense, I do think these are really good prices for either of these guys. Again, we go by the motto that if one scores, we profit. So that's what our hope is. We'll hope that they can get a passing touchdown to one of their star receivers. Houston, New England is a skip for me. Surprised to see that Houston is, bottom third of the league in touchdowns scored, and New England is pretty good at defense. This is shocking. There may be a chance at an upset here. I know I addressed in my picks video that I like New England +7. I still like New England +7. Could be a really low scoring, tight game. And for that reason, I don't have a touchdown pick for you. Tampa Bay and New Orleans is also going to be a skip just because New Orleans is starting Spencer Rattler. I don't know what that's going to entail. Potentially Taysom Hill could be a guy to look at if he's healthy. He's had a rib injury, hasn't played for maybe 2 weeks, but I think if you want to look at opportunities in volume, although Rattler's going to start, Taysom Hill's probably going to be very used in the red zone. So it's just an option. I believe his price was around +250, so it may not be a bad spot if you want to look there. Otherwise, I'm not going to give out an official play for this. New Orleans defense is pretty solid, so another low-scoring divisional type game, I don't have any confidence. I'm sorry. I know I'm giving you 2 one-unit plays at +300 odds, but I think if there is any time, it's now. Philadelphia is one of the league's worst pass defensing teams. And I know that they've had a bye and they could sort it out. And I know Cleveland hasn't looked great. And I know Watson is on the verge of being benched. Like, I get it. It's not a flawless game script, right? Like, there are holes in this, but I think the holes are filled on the back end, because of the price. +310 and +370 are incredible prices for these two guys. If we can assume that Philly plays the same level of defense that they've played, and we can assume that Philly's going to lead the game, so Cleveland is going to be trailing and having to pass, and we can assume that Cooper and Jeudy are going to get the most targets, you're telling me that it is projected that if this game is simulated 3 times, all they have to do is score 1 time each for me to break even? I'm taking that. So if these numbers are +150, +175, I'm probably staying away. These are very, very high numbers for 2 guys who should have opportunities against a weak secondary. Possibly my favorite picks of the week. Washington and Baltimore should have a lot of points. However, I'm going to pick 2 first touchdown scorers. I think the opportunity here is Baltimore at home, doing really well to score the first touchdown. Defensively, Washington is allowing a lot of first touchdowns. And although, again, we see Baltimore scoring by running back, scoring by Derrick Henry more often than not, Washington against the run has been pretty stout. Only 3 allowed to the running back all year, 10 to the wide receiver, 2 of those being first touchdowns. So give me Rashad Bateman at 16-1. And I know Isaiah Likely is not a wide receiver, but he is more of a receiving tight end for this team. So, yeah, give me Isaiah Likely, a guy who scored twice last week at 20-1. I like it. Line shop those prices. FanDuel and DraftKings were not being listed on the odds comparison tool that I used. So these are MGM's numbers, and they may not be the best. So just there's your warning. Make sure you're getting your own price there. Chargers and Denver is going to be a skip from me. It's projected to be low scoring. I think both these defenses are good, so I'm not going to throw a dart in that one. Las Vegas and Pittsburgh is also a skip for the exact same reasons, but to make matters worse, both of these offenses are bad. Okay, so the next few games we'll look at, I have not looked at previously. I'm not giving you a pick. This is where, Diet Pepsi. I ran out of time, and I said to myself, I got to make this video and get going. So if you want to look through this, you can. This one should be intriguing because the total is pretty high. Dallas's rushing defense has been bad, so maybe you want to look at a Montgomery or a Gibbs. If their price is right, maybe 2 touchdowns for either of those. But there's definitely an opportunity here for running backs to score on Dallas's defense. As far as Dallas having the ball, more passing than rushing touchdowns. So maybe go with Detroit running back or a Dallas receiver there. Atlanta and Carolina, we saw Kirk Cousins finally get something going, and really turn their passing offense around. But the Carolina, I mean, maybe it's Bijan Robinson's time, right? Only one rushing touchdown all year. And maybe even look at a Tyler Algier this week, because they're allowing a ton of running back touchdowns. We saw last week I had Swift and Rashawn Johnson. Both of them scored. So maybe you go with Bijan and you go with Tyler Algier and kind of run it back. We'll see if that pans out. It's an option. Haven't looked at the prices. Not going to officially endorse anything. Just where my head is at. Cincinnati and New York is the Sunday night game. Cincinnati's defense has been horrible. Holy cow. New York might win this game. It's a tale of a good offense against a good defense, a bad offense against a bad defense. Which will rise to the top? I don't know. Maybe, again, we go back to T. Higgins or Jamar Chase. Looks like the best matchup there. You can look through that and decide. And finally, your Monday night game, Buffalo against a good defense, mediocre Jets offense against mediocre Bills defense. Probably not too much of a lean here. You can come through and look. Buffalo has 8 running back touchdowns. That's a shock. That's crazy. That's a lot. Go James Cook, Tyler Johnson, and Ray Davis, I think, have all scored. Okay, so that's what we got. I know, guys, I'm sorry. Next week we'll be back to regular scheduled programming, a little bit nicer and neater. I got some things in the works for NBA. I'm talking to a guy who does really good work and can kind of do more data pulling that I cannot do. I can organize the data once it's pulled. I just don't know how to pull it. I could probably learn, but I digress. He's potentially going to help me get some first basket data for NBA, which I would be excited to bring to you, and it would be similar to this. So stay tuned for that, hopefully. Thank you guys. If you watch all my videos, you like, you comment, you help me grow. I appreciate it very much. And we shall see you tomorrow.